President William Ruto has panicked this after the court turned against him ahead of the 2027 general election. Welcome to Kenya Lens Media, where we give you news updates as they break, and kindly, if you're new here, consider subscribing. Now, the High Court at Milimani has awarded the Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya 2.5 million in damages after finding that his arrest and the prosecution by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution violated his constitutional rights. Justice Bahati Mwamuye ruled that the manner in which the governor was arrested on May 20th, 2025 and the investigative process that followed were unlawful. The court has also prohibited both the EACC and the DPP from continuing with the prosecution of the governor based on the same facts that formed the foundation of the anti-corruption case. The ruling marks the significant development in a case that has drawn national attention for months. At the center of its question of the due process, Justice Bahati Mwamuye found that the refusal by the EACC officers to allow Governor Natembeya access his advocates at the time of his arrest was also unlawful. The court held that denying legal representation during arrest was a violation of constitutional rights. The judge also faulted the manner in which investigators obtained the governor's mobile money statements. According to the ruling, the process used to access those financial records was also unlawful and irregular. These findings formed the basis for the court's decision to award damages, and the 2.5 million compensation is to be paid by the government. In addition, the court ordered both the EACC and DPP to pay the cost of the petition together with the interest. Beyond compensation, the ruling carries another key consequence, and the court prohibited the Anti-Corruption Commission and the Prosecution Office from proceeding with the criminal case against the governor based on the same facts that had been under investigation. That order effectively holds the prosecution in its current form, and the decision follows an earlier move by the court in June 2025. At that time, the charges against Governor Natembeya were temporarily suspended after he filed a petition challenging the legality of the case. He had argued that the charges and the process leading to them were not lawful. The High Court has now agreed with parts of the argument. To understand the weight of the decision, it is important to revisit how the case began. The EACC had pursued graft-related charges against Governor Natembeya as part of the investigations into alleged embezzlement of 1.4 billion. The investigations focused on 3 county projects in Trans Nzoia. They included the rehabilitation of Kenyatta Stadium. They also covered the construction of new county offices and the rehabilitation and enhancement of Tom Mboya Hospital. These projects were funded with public resources and were considered key infrastructure investments for the county. After conducting investigations, the EACC forwarded its findings to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the ODPP approved the charges against the governor. The charges were based on allegations of conflict of interest, financial impropriety, and abuse of office that the approval that led to his arrest on May 19, 2025 in Nairobi. Earlier that day, EACC detectives had raided the governor's residence in Kitale. The raid quickly drew attention. Supporters of the governor gathered at the residence as tension rose. The situation turned chaotic. Detectives clashed with the supporters. At least 5 government vehicles were vandalized during the confrontation. The images and reports from the Kitale spread quickly, turning the arrest into a national talking point, and Governor Natembeya was later presented in a court to face the approved charges. However, he moved to challenge the legality of the arrest and prosecution. His petition raised concerns about how the investigation was conducted. He questioned the denial of access to legal counsel, and he also challenged the way investigators obtained the financial records, and the High Court examined these claims. In its ruling, the court concluded that the refusal to allow access to advocates at the time of arrest was unlawful. Access to legal representation during arrest is protected under the Constitution, and the court found that this protection had been breached. On the issue of mobile money statements, the court ruled that the method used to obtain them did not meet legal standards. The judge described the investigative process in that regard as flawed, and this finding shaped the final orders issued by the court. The award of damages is intended to compensate for the violation of constitutional rights. The prohibition against continuing the prosecution on the same facts addresses the integrity of the process. For the governor, the ruling is a legal victory, and for the investigative and prosecutorial agencies, it is a judicial rebuke regarding procedure. The case now raises broader questions about how anti-corruption investigations are being conducted. Kenya has in recent years intensified efforts to address graft at both national and county levels. Independent agencies like EACC are mandated to investigate corruption, and the ODPP is tasked with approving and prosecuting cases where evidence meets legal thresholds. Both institutions operate with constitutional and the statutory frameworks. The High Court ruling underscores the importance of strict adherence to those frameworks. It reinforces that even in corruption cases, constitutional safeguards must be respected. The decision does not address the substance of the allegations relating to the county projects, and instead, it focuses on the process used to build and pursue the case. In legal matters, process is central, and courts examine not only what evidence exists, but how it was obtained and how suspects are being treated. Where constitutional violations are found, remedies may follow. In this stance, the remedy includes financial compensation and restrictions on further prosecution based on the same investigative foundation. For residents of Trans Nzoia, the case has been closely watched. The projects under investigation, the stadium, the county offices, and the hospital are significant public facilities. Their completion and proper management matter to the community. The legal battle has also drawn attention to governance and accountability at the county level, and Governor Natembeya has continued to perform his official duties while the case moved through the courts. He recently appeared before the Senate County Public Accounts Committee to respond to questions on county operations. That appearance came as the legal process unfolded, and now, with the High Court ruling delivered, attention turns to the next steps. The prohibition issued by the court applies to prosecution based on the same facts underpinning the anti-corruption case. The ruling does not outline any new investigative direction. It strictly addresses the case as it was presented and pursued. The order of the payment of damages and the costs will be executed in accordance with the government procedures, and the EACC and DPP have not, in the ruling itself, been granted authority to proceed further on the same material. The case stands as a reminder of the balance that must be maintained between fighting corruption and protecting constitutional rights. The High Court's message is clear that investigations must be thorough, but they must also be lawful. Arrests must respect the right to legal representation. Access to personal financial records must allow and follow proper legal channels. Failure to observe these requirements can undermine an entire case. For now, the High Court has spoken, and Governor Natembeya is entitled to compensation. The prosecution as framed cannot continue, and the agencies involved must meet the cost of the petition together with the interest. The legal chapter that began with the dramatic arrest in May 2025 has reached a decision moment, or rather a decisive moment, in March 2026. And in the fight against corruption, the High Court has reminded the nation that justice demands not only accountability, but also strict respect for the Constitution at every step. That is all for today from Kenya Lens Media. We bring you news updates as they break, and kindly, if you're new here, consider subscribing as a way of supporting us and also helping this platform to grow.